three related cases. It's going to take me a while to get through all this, but in that case, Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother, Ms. Garza, who is with us. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the father, Mr. Ochoa, who is with us. Again, in that case, Ms. Wiggins for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us for the child. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the father, Mr. Massey, who is incarcerated and not with us. Ms. Kopp is with us representing the intervenor, Mr. Massey, and I see Mr. Massey is there with Ms. Kopp. Mr. Michelson is representing Mr. Massey. I said that. Ms. Grant is representing the mother, Ms. Little. Third case, in that case, Ms. Wiggins again for the department, Mr. Ingram for the child, Ms. Kincaid for the father, Mr. Ochoa, who is with us, and Ms. Grant for the mother, Ms. Little, who is with us. Okay, I think I got everybody in all three cases, and everyone is here, so except for Mr. Massey, who's incarcerated. And I have Summer Daniels as the only person in the waiting room.
Daniels, how is Aurora doing in her placement?
She is doing absolutely amazing in her placement. I have no concerns.
Okay, and where is she placed?
She is placed in a foster home with her half siblings, Draco and Aviana, in Silverton.
Okay, and are all her medical, dental, psychological, and educational needs being met?
Yes.
And regarding the mother in that case, Ariana, she is still in San Antonio, is that correct?
Yes.
And how is she doing on her services?
She's doing great. I believe she completed her parenting classes and counseling and OSAR.
Okay, and have her screens been negative recently?
Recently, her hair strand did come back positive for marijuana, but her UA was negative.
Sorry, I didn't hear what for. You broke up.
I'm sorry. Her hair strand was positive for marijuana, and her UA was negative.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
And is Ariana currently pregnant?
She is.
And has she been forthcoming with who the father of that child is?
She has not.
Are there concerns that we do not know who's around in the household?
Yes.
Now, regarding the father, how is Mark Ochoa? How is he doing on his services?
He is in the process of completing services. He has completed his parenting classes as well as his counseling sessions. His BIP classes are ongoing, and so are his drug classes with the Padre program.
Okay. And so just to clarify, he needs to finish Padre and BIP, but he has started those.
Yes, he has.
Now, regarding Mr. Ochoa, are we asking to add the rational behavior training to his services?
Yes.
And it appeared you recently requested him to do a hair follicle drug screen in UA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And have we received the hair follicle results back yet?
I just checked 15 minutes ago and it was still pending.
Okay. Did we have a concern with when he went to his drug screen?
I do.
Okay. And so when did you request him to go drug screen?
I requested him to go I believe it was the 24th or 25th. He did not go until the 28th.
Okay. And the mother, though, she went when requested Miss Little. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now
she went the 23rd.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
She went the 23rd.
Okay. And did she go on the day you requested?
She did.
Now, regarding Miss Little and Mr. Ochoa, are they still residing together?
I do not know that for sure.
Okay. And go ahead. What information have you received?
There was some information I received, I believe, Friday, regarding Scarlett trying to get Mark to leave the premises, and he was refusing. I believe he was actually trespassed by APD later that day, but I have not been out to the home since, so I don't know.
Okay, so their current relationship, we don't really know what's going on at this time.
I do not.
Okay. Now, in regards to Miss Little, how is she doing on her services?
She's doing well. She has completed parenting classes, her OSAR. She did her psychosocial and counseling. And she actually just completed her last drug class on Friday.
Okay. And is she still in the DV support group?
Yes. That was another thing. She completed her domestic violence classes with family support services as well.
Okay. So currently she's
in the support group.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Support group. I'm sorry.
Okay. So she is in the support group still.
Yes.
Okay. And are we asking that RBT be added to her service plan as well?
Yes.
Now, regarding Aurora, how is she doing in her placement with paternal grandfather?
She's doing very well with Joseph Massey. School is going great. She is attending her own individualized counseling weekly, and I have no concerns for her placement.
Okay. And regarding Draco and Aviana?
They're doing very well in placement as well. They are placed in the same foster home in Silverton as Aurora. Draco has had many medical appointments recently and a surgery. Those are all taken care of. Therapy appointments. He has several of those ongoing. So they're meeting all of his needs. Aviana is getting speech therapy now as well. So they're meeting all of her needs as well.
Okay. And what visitation right now does Scarlett Little have with the kiddos?
She has no visitation right now.
Okay. And did it recently come to your attention that both her and Mr. Ochoa pled to their criminal cases?
Yes.
Okay. And that was done fairly recently. Is that correct?
September, I believe the 26th or 27th. I'm not sure
Okay.
on the date.
And so are we just asking the judge to make the decision on what type of visitation that the parent should have at this time?
Yes.
Okay. And regarding let's see, Shiloh Massey, he's still incarcerated. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
And what type of visitation is Aurora with her mother, Ariana?
She's getting weekly virtual visits with her mother.
And how are those visits going?
Those visits are going well. I actually have watched 2 of them, and they go well each time.
Okay. And how long are those?
They're an hour.
Okay. And how old is Aurora?
She is 6.
Is she, since you viewed the interactions with them, do you believe that an hour is about as long as her attention span, or do you believe that she can do longer?
Given that the sibling visits with Aurora usually begin right after, I think an hour is, well, I mean, she can't really attend much longer without getting antsy and frustrated.
So if we wanted more visitation between Ariana and Aurora, we would just have to schedule a different day.
Yes, or shorter. Than an hour, but I mean, an hour is usually good. But if she could do an hour and a half if we did a different day.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Are we asking for any drug screens today?
I would like to ask for a UA.
For which parent?
For all 3.
Okay. And to your understanding, do they all have the ability to drive themselves?
From my understanding, yes.
Okay. Do you believe it would be contrary to the child's welfare to be returned to the parents today?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Would there be a continuing danger to the children to be returned to their parents today?
Yes.
And as part of I guess the bond restrictions were why the Miss Little and Mr. Ochoa weren't couldn't have visits with these kids or anyone under 17. Is it your understanding that was a bond restriction and that went away when they pled to their charges?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. And the two oldest children, Aurora and, the two Auroras, are they seeing counselors?
I believe foster family was in the process of getting Aurora a scene.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm just going to go down the list of all the lawyers and all the cases the way I call them to begin with. So, Mr. Jackson, do you have questions?
Yes, sir, I do. Ms. Daniels, let's just pick up where you left off on the visitation. I know that an hour visit could be an awfully long time for a 6-year-old. Would the department have a problem with just instead of increasing the time on a single visit a week, would the department entertain the idea of having 2 to 3 visits a week for possibly shorter periods of time, say 45 minutes?
I believe we could, I could get with my supervisor and see what we could get scheduled for that.
Wouldn't you agree that'd be more tolerable for the child?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had you've had an opportunity to visit with Ariana, have you not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you and she had discussions about her having face-to-face visits on the weekends?
Not at this point, but we did discuss her coming to the area when possible, and we can set up supervised visits then.
Okay, so you said not at this point. Why not at this point?
I would need to establish with my supervisor about what you're asking.
Okay. When you testified earlier that she, I think your testimony was that she was doing well with her services. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Well, she, throughout this case, she'd been down in San Antonio, and because of that, she got a late start on her services. Isn't that correct?
She did.
And she was assigned a courtesy caseworker down there?
Yes.
And as of today's date, she's completed every service, has she not?
She has.
Okay. And the department's not asking for her to do any more services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You had testified where she had tested positive here on a fairly recent drug screen. She tested positive for marijuana. That was a very, very, very low level of marijuana, was it not?
I believe it was the hair follicle.
Yeah. Well, the test was a hair follicle, but the level that it picked up on the marijuana, it was a very low level, was it not?
It was lower than the last hair follicle, yes.
Okay, thank you. And as far as her pregnancy is concerned today, you had talked to her. I guess you were asking her who the father was.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and she didn't want to give you that answer. Is that correct?
She didn't say she didn't want to. She was just not forthcoming.
Okay. Did she tell you that they're not together?
She did tell me that. Yes.
Okay. And you all have had an opportunity to, I believe there's been a courtesy caseworker there that has looked into her home and checked out the home. Is that right?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to see that home, or did you get a report from the courtesy caseworker?
I received pictures of the home.
Okay. Was that home satisfactory?
From the courtesy worker opinion, yes.
Okay. And did she have a bed for the child?
There was, yes.
Okay. And food, things, all the necessities?
I believe I did not see pictures. I would have to ask the courtesy worker.
Okay.
They did not have any concerns.
All right. And so if you could, you said that it would be a continuing danger for the child to be returned to the mother. What's the danger?
Not knowing who is coming in and out of the home. Ariana did tell me that she and the father were not together. However, he was going to appointments with her. Therefore, he would be around.
Okay, so why is that a danger?
With St. Francis not knowing their background or who is coming in and out of the home.
Okay. All right. Pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ochoa has maintained contact with the department. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Mr. Ochoa has maintained contact with the department. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has he, are there any services that he's ordered to work that he's not begun yet?
No.
Okay, so he is in the process. He's already completed his parenting classes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he's completed his individual counseling.
Yes.
And the other services that he has been ordered to work, he's in process of working.
Yes.
And he has maintained employment throughout the history of this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he's provided you pay stubs to demonstrate that he is employed.
Yes.
And he has reliable transportation.
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And you've already testified that he recently pled on the case that had the bond restrictions such that he couldn't have visitations, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any reasons why visitations could not begin for Mr. Ochoa?
That would be up to Judge Graham in this.
Okay, but the department doesn't have any reason to prevent him from having visitations.
None. No.
Okay. And what is the reason for requesting the RBT?
We like to request it for, or I do, my supervisor for all of my parents on my caseload. It focuses on managing irrational and unhealthy thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Grant.
Ma'am, on the original plan of service for Scarlett Little, have all of the original services been completed?
Yes.
And is it correct that or do you have any reason to disagree with me that on July 6th, 2023, the court signed an order allowing no access to the children based on the bond restrictions in this case?
Can you repeat that?
Let me make it simpler. Has it been your understanding thus far that bond restrictions prevented visitation by the mother?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that the mother has completed a plea agreement of deferred probation for the charges in this case?
Yes.
That was completed before Judge Estevez in the 47th District. Do you agree with me there?
I believe so.
Okay. To your knowledge, is there any restriction moving forward for the mother to have contact with her children?
No.
And if contact were begun, is there any objection that the children have contact with their mother together at visitation?
It would, which children?
Aurora and Draco and I'm sorry, the third name, Octavia. How do you say the third name? I apologize, ma'am.
Aviana.
My apologies. The three that are the children of Scarlett. Do you have any
Um,
objection to them visiting with the mother together?
With the mother together, no.
Okay. And has it been reported to you that Mark has possibly relocated outside of Amarillo?
I was told that that was a possibility, but I don't have a definitive answer on that.
Okay. Scarlett Little has gotten her own housing that Mark's name is not on anymore. Is that correct?
That's, to my knowledge, she's in the same home that she was at the beginning of this case.
Okay. Who reported to you that the police department was able to trespass Mark from the home?
Scarlett did.
Okay. What efforts did you make to confirm that, if any?
She had sent me a form that was filled out from the department.
Okay. Was it signed by an officer or anyone in official capacity to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Do you have any preference or recommendation to the court as to how their visitation could begin with the mother and these children, since it's been a little while since they visited?
I would have to staff that with my supervisor after this hearing.
Okay. So do you object to an hour a week to start?
No, I don't.
Okay. Are these children old enough to maintain an hour a week visitation?
Yes.
Do any of the children who are currently in therapy need that visitation to begin in the company of a therapist?
I would have to check on that, but
Okay.
I'm not.
Could we agree that if any children are in therapy, that visitation beginning in the company or by recommendation of a therapist would be the best way to begin?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any concerns with the home that Scarlett Little is currently residing in?
I still do have some concerns.
Okay. What are those concerns that need to be addressed in the home?
Scarlett is in need of mattresses for the bunk beds that are in the girls' room. There's still things that need to be locked up and put away. Things like that. However, there has been significant improvement.
Wonderful. So your concerns are items for final reunification possibly and won't prevent visitation. Would you agree with me there?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me what reason we did not have RBT on the service plan to start with would be, if that's something you normally request in all cases?
I did not have this case from the beginning. A previous worker wrote the first family plan.
So the addition of a service at this point is based on change of the caseworker and not need of the parent? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Okay, so what is the new finding in the case that requires the addition of a service, if any?
So in staffing with my supervisor, we just believe it was an oversight that was clearly needed from the beginning. It just was not written into the plan. So when I got the case and had to do the reassessment, we added it in.
Okay, so since you've added it in as an oversight, would you agree that it's not going to be considered a hindrance in starting visitation or reunification in this case based on incompletion?
Agreed.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
Right, Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Summer, when was the last contact you had with Shiloh?
I wrote him a letter in October, and I don't remember the date exactly.
Did you get a response from Shiloh?
I have not.
Okay. And has he attempted to make contact with you?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And have you sent him any packet for individuals normally in custody to complete?
I have not. In my letter, I did ask that he let me know if he needed that. I was not sure if the previous worker had mailed that off.
Okay. But you've not had personal contact with them or reviewed services with them, correct?
I have not. Correct.
Okay. And the recommendation for parents doing a drug test, are you including Shiloh as part of that recommendation for drug testing?
Not since he's incarcerated.
Okay, very good. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Daniels, where's Mr. Massey incarcerated at?
He is in.
Judge, if I may, he's at the Pollock unit in Louisiana.
Yes.
That's where he's been for the entirety of this case.
Do we know what he's incarcerated for? I've never heard that.
It was federal drug and gun charges, I believe.
He's in Pollock, Louisiana.
He was asking what he's in there for. Yeah, it was just federal, the norm, federal guns and drugs.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Ms. Cobb, questions?
Ms. Daniels, this is not the first time that Scarlett Little has checked all the services off on her spreadsheet for CPS, correct?
Objection, relevance to this case, Your Honor.
Overruled. You can answer.
Correct.
So she's previously done what the department asked and then went back to the same behavior, correct?
Yes.
That shows a lack of rational thinking, wouldn't you agree?
Objection, argumentative, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Yes, I'd agree.
Has Aurora expressed any concerns regarding Mr. Ochoa?
She has.
And what are those concerns?
Her concerns she has voiced to me in my face-to-face visits that she is afraid of Mark, that she does not want to return to the home if Mark is there. She has asked if Mark and Scarlett have broken up.
With those concerns that have been expressed by Aurora, would you have concerns?
I didn't get that.
Thank you, Siri. Sorry. Would you have concerns with Mark coming to any periods of visitation with Miss Little?
Yes.
Would you ask that the court order that Mr. Ochoa not be permitted to participate in any periods of access, visitation, whatever, with Aurora?
Yes.
Do you believe that excluding Mr. Ochoa from communication access in the child's best interest?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Objection, calls for speculation.
Let me hear the question again.
Do you believe that excluding Mr. Ochoa from having communication or access to best interest?
Overruled. You can answer, ma'am.
Yes, I have concerns with the communication.
Are you asking that he also not be permitted to have any form of electronic access?
Yes.
If Mr. Massey is having periods of access to his other children at the same time as Miss Little, would you ask that if Miss Little does have periods of access that to Aurora, they be separate from the periods of access that she has to the other children?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
If Mr. Ochoa has periods of access to his other children that are held at the same time as Miss Little's periods of access, are you asking that Aurora's potential periods of visitation with her mother be held separately than the siblings?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
Ms. Daniels, I want to start with Aurora. Her mother, Ariana Garza, that lives in San Antonio. And are you aware there is a prior court order for custody out of Bexar County that has been transferred into this case, in which Ms. Garza and Mr. Ochoa were named as joint managing conservators. Mr. Ochoa was to designate residents, and Ms. Garza was to have a standard visitation order. Are you aware of that?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Simple question. Do you know that order exists?
Yes. I know the order.
Do you know if prior to this removal was Ms. Garza exercising her visitation?
I'm not sure.
Is there any reason that the department could not do a full-blown home study in San Antonio so that we would have more information about her situation?
Ms. Garza.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir, Ms. Garza.
I would staff that with my supervisor and director.
Okay. You requested earlier that only for UA drug screens, or is there a reason you are not asking for hair strands today as well?
We just completed hair strand in the last week of October.
On all three?
Yes, sir.
Have those results come back?
Only on Scarlett and Ariana. Mark's hair strand is still pending as of this morning.
Have those been filed with the court?
Yes.
Ask the witness.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Ms. Daniels? We'll start with Ms. Wiggins.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid.
Briefly, Your Honor. Have there been any home studies completed in this case?
Yes.
On whom?
Samantha Soria, Mark's mother.
And what were the results of that home study?
We denied the home study.
Okay. Were there any other home studies completed?
There were not.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass witness.
All right. Ms. Grant.
Ms. Daniels, who is your supervisor?
Luke Dyer.
Thank you. Pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Mr. Michelson.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Copp.
No questions, Judge.
All right. Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, then. Ms. Wiggins, did you have any other witnesses?
I just did want to clarify there was a home study completed on Mr. Massey, the paternal grandfather. That was after the child was placed there, but there was a home study, I believe.
Okay. All right, then give me just a second. I've got to try to keep up with this. So, Daniels, you wanted UA drug screens on all three of the parents that are not incarcerated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, then. Mr. Jackson, did you have any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kincaid.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Grant.
Your Honor, I'll call Scarlett Little.
Miss Little, briefly, do you recall what date you did your plea agreement in your criminal matter?
I don't recall. The papers aren't that far from me. I could get them, but I don't remember the date.
That's okay. Did you plead to 5 years deferred adjudication probation in this matter?
Yes.
Is there any restriction on that agreement between you and your defense attorney as to contact with children under the age of 17 or any children specific to this case? No. And do you see a probation officer monthly now?
Yes.
And are you drug tested there monthly now?
Yes.
When's the last time you did a UA for probation?
October 4th.
Okay. And if I represent if I represent to you that September 26th of 2023 is the date of the plea in your cause number, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
No.
And you agreed to a $2,000 fine, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you currently residing with Mark?
No.
Do you have any intention to visit with the children with Mark in your presence?
No.
Do you agree that it's in the best interest of you and your children to have visitation without Mark present?
Yes.
And do you agree that although rational behaviors class was not ordered, that you can complete that timely?
Yes.
And you understand that that is an added service, and that although that coming here today, you had indicated you had your services complete, that now you will have one additional. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. How much availability do you have for visitation with your children?
My availability for my children's open completely.
Okay. And you're actually working, are you still working 2 jobs, ma'am?
No, I only work one.
And is that the daytime job that you recently obtained?
It's the same one I've had.
Okay. And do you have any access to resolve the items in the home that you heard the caseworker testify to still need to be resolved?
Yes.
Are you working on those items now?
Yes.
Okay. Are you asking the court today to begin reunification visitation with your children as soon as possible?
Yes.
And you understand that if some of the children, or if one or any of the children are in therapy, that might be at the supervising office of a therapist. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And do you agree to comply with any recommendations of any therapist or any caseworker in in this case to have visitation begin?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Michael, I'm sorry, Miss Wiggins.
Miss Little, are you currently still participating in the DV support group?
No, ma'am. I finished that before my drug classes.
Okay, so you finished the DV classes, but are you in the support group as well?
The woman that runs the support group did let me know I could continue to go if I wanted to. I just haven't because of work.
Okay, and where do you work?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay, and that's the same place that Mr. Ochoa works, is that correct?
No, he quit.
Okay, and are you in the same house with him right now?
No.
All right, I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Jackson,
No questions.
Ms. Kincaid,
No questions.
Mr. Michelson,
No questions.
Ms. Cox.
Miss Little, how much do you make a month?
Anywhere from 18 to 2,400.
Okay. So it varies.
Yes, it depends on my overtime.
Okay. Have you paid any support to any of your children during the pendency of this case?
Child support. I pay medical support on my oldest son.
Okay, so that's all you've had to pay for your children since this case started?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness.
Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, anything further of this witness?
No, Judge.
All right, so let's see.
That was
Yes.
my only witness, Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to keep my list straight. Mr. Michelson would be next. Mr. Michelson, witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Ms. Cop, witnesses.
No witnesses, Judge.
Mr. Ingram.
No witnesses.
All right. I think I've covered everybody, but if not, I'll just ask, does anyone have any other witnesses to call at this time? Okay. All right, then. Give me just a minute to get caught up. All right, I guess I'm to you, Mr. Ingram, recommendations.
Yes, sir. I'll try to keep all this straight, but initially, for the department to remain temporary managing conservator for all children, for all placements to remain as is. Children are doing well in the placements, with the exception of Draco has multiple medical issues, but I do believe that his foster placement is on top of those and taking care of that. With regard to Aurora, her mother being Ariana Garza that resides in San Antonio, I believe it would be in Aurora's best interest that the court order a home study on Ariana Garza so that we can have more information about what her situation is and what her prior relationship with Aurora was before this removal. With regard to the visitation on the other children, if Mark Soria Ochoa and Scarlett Little and Ariana Garza test clean on their drug screens, I do not have any objection to the supervised visitation beginning for Mr. Ochoa and Miss Little. Ms. Garza is already receiving visitation. I further believe it to be in all the children's best interest that visitation only occur with the biological parent. Since we have all these blended issues, I don't believe any step parent should be visited. I hope I made that clear. So only visitation with biological kids. With regard to Ariana Garza and her virtual visitation, I agree with Mr. Jackson that we might be better off splitting her visitation to shorter times. I mean, an hour for a 6-year-old on a virtual visit is a long time. So I agree that that would be better for Aurora to split her visits into multiple visits for a shorter amount of time. And I think that covers it.
Okay, give me a minute here. I think I've got this. I'm just going to take them one at a time and we'll see if I've missed anything.
I apologize, Judge. Before you rule, may I ask for two things?
What's that?
Judge, I would ask, Ms. Grant kept referring to the visitation as reunification therapy or reunification visitation. We would object to it being called reunification visitation. It's not a reunification schedule. We would, if any visitation is ordered, it's just supervised access. And we would also ask that Miss Little be ordered to pay guideline support for Aurora.
Let me stop you there. I don't have time or enough information today to set child support. I'll be happy to set a separate hearing with that and have all parents bring proof of their income. I just can't do that today. So I'll be happy to entertain that motion if somebody wants to file it.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. All right. Let's start with Aurora. I'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue the current placement. I'll order that the parent's visitation will be as recommended by the Aurora's therapist. That means everything: time, place, virtual, in person. Other than I'm going to order that everyone's visitation be supervised. That's across the board. I thought the oldest was, and she was being set up for counseling. That's what I heard.
I know Aurora is currently in counseling, and so
Ms. Daniels, didn't you say that Aurora was being set up for counseling?
They're seeking a counselor for her.
So that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Let's get her a counselor, not just seek one. Let's get her a counselor. All right. Now you broke my train of thought here. Okay. I'll order that Mr. Ochoa complete the rational behavior training. I'll order a home study ordered on Miss Garza. I'll I'll order both those parents to UA drug screen as requested by the department. And I will order, as Mr. Ingram asked for, that in all these cases, I'm just going to cover it that way. The visitation will only be with biological parents, not step parents. Moving on to, let me see what order I have them in here. All right, moving on to Aurora. I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue her current placement. I'll order again that Miss Little's visitation will be as recommended by a therapist, that across the board, time, place, amount of time, and it be supervised. And I'll order Miss Little to complete the rational behavior training. I'll order, as far as Aurora is concerned, that there be no contact of any type between Aurora and Mr. Ochoa. And again, I'll order the UA drug screen on Miss Little. And again, visitation will only be with biological parents, no step parents. Okay, then on Draco and Aviana, I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue the current placements. I've already ordered in the other case, but both parents in this case to complete the rational behavior training. I'll order at this time that Miss Little and Mr. Ochoa have 1 hour weekly visits with those two kiddos to be supervised. And as long as the parents are not together, then they will have separate visitation periods, not together. I'll order the UA drug screens on both of those parents again. And I will order again that, well, that doesn't apply to this one, but all visitation be with the biological parents only, and no step parents of any type. So, okay, that's trying to keep up as quick as I could. That's what I've got on all of them. So, in all three cases, we'll have our next review hearing on March 4th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so all parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of March 4th to see what time that hearing will take place. And again, if anyone wants to take up child support and medical support issues, I'll be happy to do so, but I'll need all the parties to bring or to provide before the hearing information on their incomes. So,
Governor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
One more thing on the 3 children that are in foster care.
Yes.
They are placed out of town, and I would that they not be transported for visitation if it begins, that it be either virtual or the parents have to go to them.
Yeah, I meant to say that. In all 3 kids that are living in Silverton, I'm going to order that they not have to travel to Amarillo for visitation. Whatever the visitation is recommended will either take place virtually or it will take place in Silverton, supervised again, as I said, on all these visitation periods. So, okay, I believe we finally got through that one. So,
Your Honor, may I add one statement for the record just for Mrs. Cox. My use of the word reunification was only in the spirit of adding the children back with the mother and not in the legal term of reunification plan. So my apologies for that word, for that term.
all right. No harm, no foul. I wasn't sending anybody home today anyway.
Exactly. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, that takes care of those 3 cases. We'll stand in recess.